Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next Leader Speak series. Very happy to introduce a close friend and schoolmate, Rajesh Ramadurai, in today's show. Hello, Rajesh.
Morning, Ringo. Good to see you after a very long time.
Yes, likewise, likewise. You're looking the same.
Thank you
So
so
it's a
much.
pleasure seeing you again. And
It's a fun.
without further ado, I'd like to get started with the show. Would love you to give our viewers a view of your background and your journey from how when we were schoolmates to what you're doing today. So over to you, Rajesh.
Thanks a ton, Ringo, for having me here. Uh, I started in a place called Calcutta, which is actually a fairly big city in the world, a place where you are familiar with as well.
Yes.
Interestingly, we go back far more than just our school. We go back to where we began our lives and in a very large city, and then moved on to the rest of my schooling, second of my schooling, to a beautiful hill town called Kunur, which truly was far more focused on an all-round development of an individual rather than just about academics and education, which I think has stood the test of time for me over a period of time. And I think over the conversations, there are examples I'll give what I learned way back in school, which helped me. And from there, I completed my schooling right up to the higher secondary and moved on to a very privileged institute, one of the top ranked universities in the country, uh, called Birla Institute of Technology and Science in Pilani. Truly, serendipitous to get there. It's very difficult to get in there. Only 700 students in the batch would get in there, and I was very privileged to be in that college. Highly competitive, extremely talented and skilled people. And I pursued my dual degree in bioscience and pharmacy. Life sciences, incidentally, be a passion for me ever since my eighth grade. And so I pursued my passion all my life, and I continue to pursue my passion. And from campus, was very keen to do my PhD in life science, and I did get my admissions in the US in three universities, but I chose to prefer a career in the corporate world rather than going to research in molecular biology, which was and is my passion. And from campus, I worked in some large organizations, started my life as a meager salesman. Now, when I say meager, and I don't mean it in a way of demeaning the role, and I'm a very proud salesman even today. The minute I step out of my office and I'm a salesman, I'm a salesman all my life, and I'm very, very proud of having started my career as a salesman because I think that's the fundamental learnings that one gets about a customer and the marketplace. There's no better learning than that than being a salesman. I started as a salesman, spent my career about 50% of them in global multinational companies like Novartis, and was both in sales and then in brand management and marketing. And then I did move into a global German multinational called Boehringer Ingelheim, was part of the team that set up the operations in India, put up the entry strategy, launched the company and some of its products. And from there, I moved to a fairly large Indian multinational called Glenmark, which is close to a $2 billion company now, with fairly good presence across the globe, including the US in the generic space. And I was in the global corporate strategy team and then moved on to head business development and planning for the rest of the world, and including projects. And I did a wide variety of roles. And my last role in Glenmark was establishing the business in the Middle East and North Africa region. That was the last role before I turned an entrepreneur. My story, Ringo, on the academic front, I did pursue a PGGM, which was sponsored by Novartis during my stay there, and also a senior management program from a very prior champion institute in management in India called Indian Institute of Management in Calcutta. So that's the background. And Ringo, my story is not that of an entrepreneur starting in a garage, nor is it of an entrepreneur starting at the age of 2025. My story is of a person who chose to become an entrepreneur or become an entrepreneur when I was the peak of my career, when I had a family to fend, and yet I decided to do what I did. Uh, I don't want to just credit my own decision making for that. One of the things that I've been blessed with all my life is well wishers and mentors. And the decision for me to become an entrepreneur was aided by a old friend of mine for more than 2 decades, who knew me from the day I started my career, who had already become a very successful entrepreneur in the life science space. And he is the one who eventually goaded me into getting into this space. His name is Jay Kaushik, and I really owe it to him to have moved into this, taking that decision. It's not an easy decision to do it at the age of 42 or 43. So that's the story. Today, I head a enterprise called Inspira. It's in the health science space. We're trying to do something very, very unique in the health science space, trying to move the paradigm from treating illness to managing wellness. And it's been an interesting journey in the last 5 years as an entrepreneur.
Awesome. That's very, very, very impressive. And as your schoolmate and your senior, I'm immensely proud of you, of
Thank you.
your achievements, academic, professional, personal. And I wish you many, many more successes at Inspira,
Thank you so
Rajesh.
much.
So, as you know, this whole group that we have formed, ELForum, we are hoping to, bring entrepreneurial leaders like yourself and kind of share insights and what brought you here. So, like you just shared a nice insight that you chose to be an entrepreneur at age 42 when you're the peak of your career. So that's an interesting insight. And on that note, my next question is: what in your mind is leadership as you've gone through these large corporates and now you're running your own startup? What in your mind is leadership?
I think there are a few characteristics that define a leader. I mean, and there are enough books which talk about leadership and the qualities that traits that a leader carries. But in my sense of learning over the last couple of decades, 2.5 decades, first of all, every entrepreneur is a leader in my opinion because he's made a decision, and that leads to my point about leaders are the people who make decisions. And that's the real true trait of a leader who stands up and makes a decision. It's very difficult to make those decisions. Uh, and then I just want to slightly distinguish between people who are in the corporate leadership, which is classic. We move up the corporate ladder, and this is where I spend most of my time as well. I was in the corporate world, but also in what goes on with an entrepreneur leader. And I thought I'd just pick up two areas which really distinguishes the difference between what you need in these type of leaders. In the corporate world, while you do make decisions, there's one thing which I have seen, which all of us have, which is fear as a quality. Fear is a great quality to have, but how you use fear is what differentiates you, in my opinion. In the corporate world, fear is seen as an obstacle. You're afraid of taking a decision because you'll be questioned by someone about you, by the board, by someone. It doesn't mean that entrepreneurs don't have fear. Entrepreneurs are terribly afraid all the time, but they use fear as a motivator, an enabler to move forward. And I want to give you a very interesting example of what has happened over the last 18 months. And all of us, the world has seen the pandemic, right? And for some reason in India in February last year, we thought, oh, Australia, it's happening. In China, it's happening. Oh, India, nothing will happen. Just it's fine. And we're actually moving around as though nothing was going to happen. And then the axe falls on us in the middle of March. And we still didn't take it seriously till middle of April. And I mean, not just the country, even us in the organization, we said, it will be resolved. It's okay. There's some temporary 15 days lockdown, we'll stay at home. When April 15th, we realized, my God, this is not going to end so soon. And we're a very small organization. My first fear was, how am I going to continue to feed the 100 odd people who we already have as employees in the organization? And that's a fear. That's a genuine fear. And we pivoted quickly to think of alternate products which we could launch given the current environment. And we did that very quickly. Within 2 months, we had products and we were back into our growth track. Now, that was possible because an entrepreneur leader does not use fear as an obstacle to move forward. Whereas in organizations which are large because of the protocol and processes and the inability to make decisions or the fear of making decisions stops them from moving forward. So that's one area which I thought was a very, very different thing, which I've observed between being in a corporate world for 20 odd years and then the last 5-6 years of being on my own. The other thing which I think is a distinct quality which differentiates leaders of these two types is uh, entrepreneurs truly build organization. I'm not sure of the statistic, but I'm told the world has only 1% entrepreneurs feeding 99% employees. And that's likely to be true, right? Because 1% chose to build something where there's nothing. Whereas in the corporate world, leaders typically are there to nurture what is existing. That's a big difference. Uh, Having said that, I do think that every enterprise has a small percentage of entrepreneurial leaders, if I can qualify it that way. Because if that doesn't exist, corporates can't grow. But that may be a small percentage. People who own up, take the ownership, make the decisions, and see how they can move forward the organization in the growth path. So I think these are really, I view leadership, there's again this question of whether leadership can be groomed as a skill, or is it naturally someone is born of it. I don't know what the judgment out there is, but my own opinion is a lot of it is innate. It has to come from innate qualities in an individual. You can be groomed to be a great manager, build in great skills so that you become a vice president of a company or a president of a company, knowing how to run processes and stuff like that. But you want to be a leader. I think there should be some innate quality where you can fight the fear and move forward.
Excellent, excellent. So I think you did allude to the concept of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial leaders. Uh, so I'm going to probably dive directly and ask you, what do you think are the traits of an entrepreneurial leader as per your experience?
See, first of all, there should be a certain amount of humility in an entrepreneur. And I'm learning this still, I'll be very honest, because I said, almost a couple of decades of being in the corporate world, you reach a position, and then the position and the card drives your decisions and your way of behavior. But whereas in an entrepreneur, uh, you got to really have a sense of humility. You will fail. One of the things that I've learned, whether in a large organization which has got a great backing or an organization which does not exist, every plan is wrong. There is no right plan. Now, I'm not sure, and someday, Ringo, I definitely want to do some analysis and research into this. Which organization actually fulfilled this first 5-year strategic plan from the time of launch, from the seed? I really don't know. So I think
Yeah, that's an interesting area of research, I'm sure.
so an entrepreneur should be prepared to accept that there is no plan that's going to be right. So you've got to prepare for backup. The other quality, which is very, very essential in my opinion, is you can't put your head down ever, because there are other people looking up to you. And so it's a quality of a leader, definitely. But in the corporate world, you always have someone to go up to. Here, the buck stops at you. So the minute you put your head down, you're unknowingly giving a message that you're given up, and that's going to impact a lot of people in the organization. So it's a very, very important quality to have, that not to give up. And then the third thing which I see as a leader, as well as an entrepreneur, is be prepared for an alternate plan all the time. It's not just going to happen the way you wanted it to happen. Be prepared for an alternate plan all the time. So look, this is uh, really how I've seen the journey in the last 5 years. I've not had time to worry about things. I can't afford to worry about things. Although Inspira itself is backed by one of the largest conglomerates in India, the Tata Group, but we work exactly like a startup. The model is that of a startup. We're fairly independent and to deliver results and growth. So we go through everything that a normal startup from a garage would go through, and it was designed to be a model like this. So, and I'm just sharing what I've gone through. It may not be the
Excellent,
best.
and which is what I'd like to hear. I want to hear exactly how your experiences have been. Uh, so, what you know, other challenges have you faced as an entrepreneur?
Uh, Look, this is a classic challenge of every enterprise, and for a startup more so, is the funding part is something that it's a learning for me, really. I mean, it's something which you always have your Excel models which shows you a valuation forecasting into the future, and then there's a free cash flow which you're projected, and then you figured out how you could do it. I think that's a moving ball. I mean, there's no such there's no fixed targets. You've got to be prepared. Uh, I think it's not just a strategic plan truly in the sense of an Excel model. You really need to be thinking ahead and prepared for, one of the first things that I did when I made my model, and I said, look, I need to have the money for 3 years to run the company. Only then I'm putting my first person in. Because once you recruit people, you can't just tell them to go. No, that's not great leadership. You've got to at least retain what you have. So I think so the first thing is there is no fixed uh, model to ensure that there's funding. You've got to be really on the move to look at how your cash flows are moving and then prepare a plan B. The second challenge which I faced very interestingly is uh, people. It's a funny thing, really. I mean, you got to convince. You want great quality all the time, everywhere, right? Of great people who will help you build the business and take forward. But then you got to convince them that this is a startup and they're not, they know there's going to be struggle and it's not going to be easy to convince the best people to come in. And I think that's a real challenge. And I did face that in the first 2 years, but I'm very happy to share with you that over the last 18 months, we learned how to manage people by grooming them, by giving them the clarity in terms of the vision of the organization. And a lot of times people are not looking for just the money part of it. They're also very clearly looking for what's the vision of this organization. We want to grow faster as well. Is this the right organization? And it's very, very important for entrepreneurs, especially startup leaders, to give clarity in terms of the vision. Where are we heading? We never thought we will go into space one day, but we are, right? I mean, we never thought a rocket can come back into the Earth once it's gone up to the space, but it's happening. So entrepreneurs have to sort of empower the people by showing the vision. And that's what is a key motivator for a lot of people who come into startups. And that's what we've learned to do very well over the last 18 months. But the first 24 months was a super challenge to get the right talent. And we really need the right. I think these are two really. And the other thing which I shared is I don't have time to sleep and worry about what's not happening. I really have to think what have I got to make happen. And that's the third challenge which I've had. But yeah, but other than that, you would face similar
Excellent. And I
challenges
think
in
it kind of
the
resonates with me also that people, we don't pay enough attention to people, we don't pay attention to the vision, and we also don't pay enough attention to the small things. Sadly, the small things make up great organizations, right?
absolutely.
So, as my last question for today, Rajesh,
Hmm.
what is your advice to folks who are contemplating a journey in entrepreneurship? Would you dissuade them? Would you encourage them? What's your
Oh,
suggestion?
I encourage my employees who says I want to build a business. And I said I will invest in it. Don't worry, because I think entrepreneurs are creating a world there where then none exist in terms of opportunities. So I think I would absolutely encourage entrepreneurs, no matter which space, and I'm okay they fail. It's okay to fail because it's great to fail. There's nothing wrong to fail. Failure is a great thing. That's my opinion, really. I mean, and I'm perfectly humble enough to admit that I have failed. 25 years into a career, you should be zooming and building any business you want. Doesn't work that way. So it's a failure in a sense, right? So it doesn't just work so easily. You have to be open to learning. So I would encourage everybody to first, follow your passion. Now, it's today for me a lot of success because I really pursued what I loved, which is life science. And I've been in that space forever. Not that I didn't think of or did get opportunities early in my career to move. I would have. But I followed my passion because I think that's very critical that you enjoy what you do. Joy is a very core component of building successful enterprise. You can't just be creative if you're not happy what you're doing or joyful what you're doing. So that's the first thing I would say. Follow your passion no matter what. You know, it could be weird stuff, but follow your passion. The second thing, which I think is start early. Don't worry, start early. You know, though I do believe there's no age for becoming an entrepreneur, and I'm a classic example of someone who started very late. But there's a huge advantage when you start early because the ability to take risk takes a quantum leap if you're able to start early because your liabilities are far less, both in terms of finances and in terms of responsibilities. having two kids and then starting at the age of 42, 43, that's not easy, right? But that's the first. That's the second thing. The third thing is don't be afraid. Uh, Look, fear. We are born with fear. We are all afraid of one thing or the other. There's no doubt about it. Born as humans, we are afraid of something or the other. So I'm not saying don't have fear, but use fear as a motivator, as an enabler to go to the next level, rather than using it as an obstacle. Saying, you know what, I can't do this. Let me give. No, I think these are the three things. So follow your passion, start early if you can, but don't worry if it's too late, as there's nothing called late. Ringo, the other thing which is very, very interesting, which I've learned over the last 4 to 5 years, is if you follow your passion and if you have an idea which is good, which is not great, which is just looking good, the money is there. It's difficult sometimes, but the money is available. The world has a lot of people who have a lot of money who are willing to fund good ideas. So don't be afraid. Give it a shot, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's okay. It's a learning. So these are the three or four things I would like to share.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Rajesh. I'm really proud to say that you are on a great path, and I wish you and your organization all success. And thank you for your insight. And I would love you to continue participating in this group. As I told
Sure.
you, we are just about getting started here, and the hope is that we'll have many more such interactions, and probably invite young entrepreneurs or people who are on path to their journeys to see if we can help each other, because entrepreneurs have only other entrepreneurs to help. So, and
Yeah,
as you rightly said,
absolutely.
you learn something, and it's good to share that nuance with someone else. And why reinvent the wheel, right? And that's really the philosophy with which we wanted to put together this group ELForum. So thank you so much for your time. Look forward to your continued participation and wish you all success. Thank you,
Once again,
Rajesh.
thanks
Have a
for
great day.
having me, Ringo, and you too have a great day, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you so much.